Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Earlier today, I tabled the report into the assessment and treatment of ADHD and support services in Tasmania, an inquiry that I chaired as part of Committee B. The inquiry was an incredibly rewarding piece of work. We heard from dozens of Tasmanians about their experiences, which they shared with us generously and in the interests of improving the system for others. Throughout the life of the inquiry, the committee heard compelling evidence about the significant challenges Tasmania faces in accessing assessment, diagnosis, treatment and ongoing care for Tasmanians. Workforce shortages, long wait times, complex and siloed service pathways, stigma and discrimination around neurodivergence and around the use of stimulant-based medications, as well as legislative barriers and funding constraints, both state and Commonwealth, all combine to make ADHD pathways one of the most complex and difficult to navigate. The inquiry was established by motion in this chamber by former member for Clark, Simon Barakis, and I'm really glad that Simon was able to join us again in the chamber today for the tabling of the final report. I want to acknowledge Simon's own lived experience with ADHD, which he also generously shared with the committee and with members and with the public, and that experience indeed guided the establishment of the committee's steering committee's terms of reference. And while Simon wasn't able to remain a member of the committee until the work was completed, I do hope that he finds some satisfaction in the final outcome. The challenges in ADHD treatment pathways are not unique to Tasmania, but they are felt more acutely here. Our dispersed population, our complex prescribing rules and the increasing level of need all contribute to a system that is struggling to meet demand. Early intervention, which is widely recognised as crucial, is often out of reach. Too many children begin school without the assessment and support that they needed in the early years, simply because our services are stretched beyond capacity. The social and economic impacts of ADHD, of inadequate ADHD treatment are profound. When people can't access diagnosis or care, the costs flow directly into our health system, our education, police and justice systems, as well as major social impacts on the lives of individuals. Despite growing public understanding of neurodiversity, stigma still remains a major barrier, particularly around stimulant medications. Evidence to the inquiry made it clear that for some Tasmanians, stigma around ADHD medications is often felt to be greater than stigma associated with opioids or benzodiazepines, other medications that also carry a risk of dependence. Sadly, sometimes that stigma is felt even within the medical profession, albeit there are countless incredible psychologists, GPs, paediatricians, psychiatrists and allied health workers working tirelessly in this area. During the life of the committee, a review into the Poisons Act 1971 also commenced, and we welcome that in our report, and we are very hopeful that that review will lead to more contemporary, practical and patient-centred regulatory frameworks. Some of the key recommendations we made in the final report are the removal of the single prescriber model, that is, to allow for both a GP and a specialist to be co-authorised to make prescribing decisions for one patient. This is the case in most other jurisdictions, and it's also the case here for most other prescribing. The single prescriber model for ADHD medications was identified as one of the key pressure points in the system that delays treatment and leads to poor outcomes for patients. The committee would also like to see clearer assessment criteria and greater flexibility in medication collection regimes, as well as increased communication between the regulator and treating clinicians. These things would significantly improve patient outcomes. We also heard concerning evidence about the treatment of ADHD in custodial settings where stimulant medications are generally not provided due to a diversion risk, and we certainly are very cognisant of the complexities and difficulties in treating many medical conditions in a custodial setting. But we also heard that sudden removal of medication, which usually happens when someone is incarcerated, can and does exacerbate behavioural challenges affecting both inmates and staff. The committee recommended targeted work to address this, noting that research also shows an overrepresentation of people with ADHD in prison populations. I want to sincerely thank the many individuals, parents, carers, advocacy organisations and health professionals who shared their experiences with the committee. Their honesty and generosity shaped the report's recommendations and findings. And finally, I want to emphasise that while ADHD can make life more difficult, it can also be an absolute superpower. People with ADHD are often highly motivated, creative and innovative, and the committee was so fortunate to hear countless beautiful stories about unique problem solving, creative solutions and incredible experiences.
I did give the call to the Honourable Member for Lyons.